Today, we are joined by a very, very special fighter carrying lots of momentum, come up in the UFC through the Contender Series. He is fighting on April 17th on the Whitaker Costa card versus Austin Hubbard. What a fight. How exciting. The one and only Natan Levy. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
No worries. And I've got to first start this off. Last night, one of the greatest cards on paper, definitely of all time, UFC 259. And I've got to know your thoughts on this. Is there any fight that really stood out for you?
Yeah, for me, first of all, the card started with like great fights, one after
Mm,
the other, a bunch of finishes, really amazing fights. Um, I think for me, the main card was not as fun to watch. There was a lot of controversy. Um, Amanda, she's an amazing fighter, but it's really hard to give her an opponent on her level, right? Which of course she's amazing. She destroyed that girl, but I'd love to see her maybe fight Shevchenko again or
mm.
something like that. Um, and of course the Peter Yan fight. For me, it's it's I have a friend who got knocked out the same way with an illegal knee, and I really feel like the sport needs to evolve and get better with that stuff because like when somebody gets hit with an illegal foul in MMA, they always ask the guy like, "Oh, can you continue?" Because like if you can't continue, okay, we're gonna stop the fight and disqualify the opponent. Which I can understand if it was maybe done, with a groin strike or something that was accidental. But something so blatant like kneeing somebody who's downed in the face, like how do you not know the rules
Mm.
of the sport you're fighting in? How do you not like understand the hands? It's sometimes confusing because it depends on the state, and sometimes you fight somewhere they tell you one thing and a different state will tell you something else. But that's the confusing part. There's no confusion about if the knee touches the ground, he's grounded. That's it. No need to think. Just don't knee him in the face.
Exactly. And I've got to ask you your thoughts on this. Obviously, there was a lot of controversy with Jan Sterling that knee. Do you think the decision should be made by the fighter whether to continue or not? Or do you think that decision should be made more by the referee or the doctor?
I think the fighter should have zero to do with it.
Hmm.
I think, like, again, sometimes, somebody throws an illegal knee, heat of the moment, and it grazes. And then maybe you could say, you could, like, not even don't ask the fighter, but you can put your input into it. Oh, okay, it only grazed him. Let's just take a point. He's okay. But if you can tell the man is not okay, don't ask him. Like every fighter will tell you, yeah, I want to keep fighting, right? I'm pretty sure Aljamain said he wanted to keep fighting,
Hmm.
but he also wanted a minute to rest and lay on his back or something like that. Obviously, the man is concussed. A concussion protocol is 2 months, no contact. So you're going to give my guy 2 minutes to rest and go back in there? Like, no, the fight is over.
Exactly. And again, Jan looked a bit confused. There was footage of his corner coming out, maybe, egging on the knee, saying, like, do it, do it. A lot of controversy over that. And then with the main event I want to talk about, Adesanya, Blaskowitz, that was a great fight, a really technical fight. And do you think, Adesanya's moving up from 185, and it's not like with the lower weight classes where you just move up 10 pounds, you're moving up, what, 15 pounds or so. Do you think that was probably one of the key factors of why he didn't get the result?
Yeah, that's a good argument. He did go up by 20 pounds,
Oh,
185 to
absolutely.
205. That's not the same as going from 45 to 55, right?
Mm.
Also, Adesanya doesn't cut much weight. I don't really buy that he always says like he doesn't even cut weight to make 85, stuff like that. I don't buy it, but he definitely doesn't cut a ton of weight. So Blachowicz could have entered the cage like 230 easily. Um, and yeah, like Jan said, maybe standing it was kind of equal, but on the ground you feel that weight. And when you're done grappling and you get back up, you still feel that weight. Your shoulders feel it, your your cardio feels it. So I think I really like Izzy. I think, as a spectator, I think he maybe should have done more. He could have done more, but I don't know how tired he was. I wasn't in there. I'm pretty sure he gave his best and just wasn't enough last night.
Yeah, exactly. And this year has been a crazy year in the UFC. Connor's lost. Izzy's now lost. He's not undefeated anymore. Khabib's is seemingly retired. Do you think is even more for you personally? Is there more of a focus for you to become like a new rising star? Is there a gap, would you say, in the market for a new star in the UFC?
I don't think there's a gap, but I think the UFC always wants more in new stars, and I think it's very hard to fabricate one. They've tried many times with all kinds of fighters, and like people just didn't like or never connected with. Um, so yeah, I don't really look at it like a star and all that stuff. I just want to be like a good fighter. If people love me, great. If not, that's okay too. Um, and yeah, I think the UFC is like making a lot of cuts right now, getting rid of older fighters, which I think is a good thing. I think like there needs to be more room for new fighters like me.
Yeah, exactly. So, and you fight like the part. You've got great fighting style, and you certainly look the part with that haircut. And I've got to ask, what made you decide to get the mohawk?
Just at a certain age when your mom doesn't tell you how to cut your hair anymore, I decided I'm going for it, and it stuck.
Does it sort of give you more like maybe sort of gives you more confidence? I've heard maybe it could be a bit more aerodynamic with your head there,
Exactly,
helping
yeah.
with the movement.
Aerodynamic, you can run faster, swim faster, fight faster.
Exactly, there you go. And I see you're repping the t-shirt, you're wearing it. Syndicate MMA. Obviously, you're training there out in Las Vegas, but I want to rewind it there and take it back to your first day there. And can you tell me what was that like?
Yeah, that was 7 years ago. Time flies.
Mm.
And, I just, for me, like so many people, they always talk and tell you what you should do and how you should do things when they've never done shit themselves, right? And they tell you, why don't you go train at Jackson with all the champion? Why don't you go train here and there? And for me, like when I got into the team, the first thing I noticed is like, first of all, the mat was filled with people my size, right? 45ers, 35ers, 55ers. So I got a bunch of training partners. Second, I knew back then, there was a few UFC fighters on the mat, but most of the team were amateurs and they were all winning fights. And at that point, I didn't want to be like, I wasn't even in my aim, like, oh, be in the UFC or be train with the champions. No, first I want to be an amateur and a successful one. Where can I do that? Here, right? The team is building great amateurs. Then when I was an amateur, my friends were turning pro, doing very well as pros. That's what I want to do. I want to be pro and do well. When I turned pro, within a couple of years, me and friends of mine started fighting, for the UFC, for Dana White's Contender Series, doing well, like growing together all the time, pushing each other and growing together. And for me, I knew like going and training with a world champion when I don't even know MMA when I first came to Vegas, what good am I going to do for him? Nothing. So he's not going to want to train with me. The
Mm.
only thing that could happen is me being his heavy bag for a few rounds. How is that going to make me any good? So I wanted just like people close to my level, maybe better. I mean, they had to be better. I didn't know anything, but people to grow with. And that's what happened.
Nice. And in your eyes, what are the key components to make up a great MMA gym?
That's a good question. I think obviously you need a good coach, that has like leader quality that can bring people together and not just somebody who holds the stopwatch, right? There's plenty of those kinds of coaches, but for me, like a good coach is also a teacher. So a big thing too at Syndicate is every time I come in, I learn something new. And I know it's a little bit of a cliche, but it can be like a whole new move, and it can be just little details, right? Or it could be something I'm learning today. Hey, you know what? I knew it before, but I forgot about it. I haven't
Mm.
drilled it in a year. Now we're reviewing it. I learned something I already knew, right? Instead of just going in, okay, ready, go, wrestle, ready, go, fight. And then you just do the same thing all the time, you never evolve. So a good coach, you got to be a good teacher, you got to be a good leader. And then I think there should be like a certain degree of, friendship between fighters. Not everybody needs to be friends with everybody, but kind of a similar vibe, uh, a good vibe in the gym. Like I know some gyms that have like cliques inside the gym, and I don't think that's good.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be certainly not. And you mentioned when you went into the gym, there's a lot of guys walking around at your weight, but you seem like a pretty big guy. And what are you usually walking around at, and how does that affect your weight cuts usually?
I'd walk around like 30 pounds over my weight class.
And
So yeah,
does that give you a bit of a struggle, or do you focus it? Does your gym help you? You cut good, and you're not really stressing out the week before or putting so much effort into it.
um, it's always a little bit stressful cutting the weight. It always seems like, oh, the scale's not moving, or someday, you just had a few berries extra and you wake up 2 pounds heavier and you go crazy. But really, like, that when you trust the process, I've already done it many times. I know sometimes you go up in weight without doing anything, and the next day you go back down. Like, no need to panic. I'm used to it. I know how to do it.
Yeah, and before we get onto your fight, because obviously you are fighting coming up, I want to rewind a bit and talk a bit about the contender series. And obviously you fought there, you got the contract. Was that everything that you expected being there at the live event, or was there something that with being there, is there things that you weren't really expecting or that were different in your mind?
I didn't really have much expectation for it because it was on 2 days' notice, and I didn't really have time to build
Hmm.
expectations. Um, it was cool, It was very like dreamlike getting the contract, but also I was very happy, but I wasn't like crazy excited, and I can't believe it. Like, no, I believe it. I knew this was coming, and here it is. Felt like I already lived it, and I'm just like reliving the memory.
Would you have preferred doing the contender series as opposed to another avenue such as the Ultimate Fighter?
Um, Ultimate Fighter is pretty cool. I've always wanted to do Ultimate Fighter, but just so happened to be that it was a contender series.
It was quite surprising because a lot of people say, "Oh, I wouldn't want to be locked in a house for a bunch of weeks, with people that you're about to fight."
Yeah, that's true. And being like offline, no phone, that's gonna be tough as well, away from family. But I think also it's like an experience, right? It's something you don't get to do so often. It's once in a lifetime experience, so why not experience it?
100% agree. And now I want to look at your fight. As I mentioned, you're fighting in April against Austin Hubbard. Obviously, you're undefeated, and he's had a bit of a mixed record. Do you look at that and be more confident, or do you not focus on that? And do you just see this as a fight? No matter what his record is, he's still another guy, and I have to go in and perform my best.
I don't like my the only attention I pay to it is like I know he's battle tested. For me,
Hmm.
somebody with losses, it's like scars, right? It can even make him more badass. It can make him a harder fight because he's been through a lot of things. He has more experience, right? At the same time, it's nice when you can like open a fight pass and watch your opponent lose and see exactly how he lost. More than like it's easier to get a good game plan going than just thinking, oh, maybe this will work, maybe that will work. No, we know what works. We can add, we can subtract from it, but we know what works against them.
And you are, I think you are, if I am correct, you are the same age. I think you may be a little bit older, but even though you're the same age, do you feel like you're coming in with more of the momentum and more of the fresh energy?
Yeah, I feel I'm younger in my career, right? From one point, he's got more experience. From the other hand, I'm more of a fresh fighter,
Hmm.
right? I didn't take any damage in my career, and I'm don't take much damage in training either. And I think I got longevity ahead of me, and hopefully, his experience is not going to be as much of a big deal as like me being fresh and me being maybe also more with a fire for winning my UFC debut.
And would you say this is obviously first fight properly in the UFC? Would you say this is the most important fight in your MMA career?
Every fight is the most important fight. If you lose your next fight, you always like every fight is like climbing up the stairs, right? And you win another one, another one, another one, you get to a whole new floor. But if you lose, you fall down the whole staircase. So every fight is the most important fight.
With that being said, I'm sure obviously you're looking for the win, you're looking to put on a show. Would you be able to give me a prediction?
Just I know I'm gonna win. I don't care how, when. I'll keep pushing. I won't give him an inch until I win.
I love to hear that, and I'll definitely be watching and tuning in. And I've got to know, obviously, the lightweight division is one of the most exciting and stacked in the UFC. Khabib's now retired; it's opening up a bit. Who knows what's going to be happening with the belt? Are there any matchups? I'm sure you'd want to fight anyone and anyone, but is there any specific matchups that you see that you'd really love to have?
I just love to fight Austin Hubbard right now. Can't wait.
And well, a couple final questions I do have to ask. Obviously, since getting MMA, you're in Las Vegas, huge desert. I'm sure it's really, really hot there. But if you had to be stranded in the middle of one, would you rather be stranded in the desert in Las Vegas or the Negev?
The Negev.
Do you think you can navigate your way out of that?
No, but maybe I can find somebody who does.
Yeah,
The
I'm sure
Negev
it would
is not
help
as big
land.
as the desert over here, I think.
Is it hotter?
Um, I think I think it's the same. Like summertime, they're both too much.
And let's say you manage to find your way out, would you rather end up on the Vegas Strip or Banana Beach?
Uh, that's a good one. I don't know. Just yet, not but yeah, Banana Beach. Let's say.
I love to hear it. And final question I've got to know, if you were fighting as a gladiator in the Colosseum in Rome, what would your weapon of choice be and why?
Um, a helmet with spikes and headbutt people.
No weapons at all. Nothing to keep your hands busy.
Maybe like two axes. I'll take
Two
two
axes and a
axes
weapon and just a headbutt, a weapon with
and
a
just a
helmet with
headbutt.
spikes.
Yeah.
I love to hear that. And if you'd like to shout out anything, mention anyone, the floor is yours.
No, I'm good. Thank you. Really appreciate it. If any one of the listeners wants to follow me on Instagram, Natan Levy, and that's it.